Sorry, that was louder than I thought. Hi, I'm Janie.
And I'm Dan.
And we are Achieve the Lifestyle. And today we're going to talk about passive wellness.
Yes, passive wellness and how it doesn't exist.
Yeah, there's no such thing.
Yep.
So you cannot do nothing and be well.
So let's really define, set the parameters for what we consider passive wellness to be.
Doing nothing.
Yeah, it is doing nothing. But
so I would say not. So passive wellness would be not doing anything to actively, proactively, or preventatively improve your health. I don't know if preventatively is even a word, but not doing anything to actively improve your health and expecting there not to be anything that ever goes wrong.
So I think it's like a pair, we put people at levels of wellness, if you will, and then that passive wellness is this place, and this is my idea here.
Yeah.
Where you're in this thing where you're like, oh, I don't drink, I don't smoke. This is an example. So I don't really eat too crazy or whatever, but I'm on the couch all the time. So I'm not really doing anything super proactive to take care of myself, but I'm not doing anything too crazy to mess myself up. And I'm just letting the chips fall where they may type of thing, versus actually owning it and be like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing all these things to maximize my health.
Yeah.
Whereas I guess I would put it a step up from totally not giving a shit about your health and eating fast food every day, maybe literally one rung up from that.
Yeah, but I think if you then separate that as one rung up from somebody who doesn't give a shit about their health, you're assuming that they have the knowledge of knowing what to do for their health, which some people don't.
Yes, and now I feel like there's a level of intuitive knowledge about health. Like there's, when you're fucking, like if you're drinking every day, that's not good for you.
Right.
That's an example.
Yeah. So, but
or you're
alcohol,
eating fried shit every day. Like there's something that's kind of telling you.
The fried shit may not be as obvious as the alcohol, right? Because if you think alcohol has sort of a built-in, like control where you get drunk, you pass out, you feel like shit the next day. Fried food doesn't do that. At least it does. It may on a more subtle level.
Or if you're eating fast food every day, I feel like something. You start seeing the weight gain and stuff. Something's not. Even if you might be like, fuck it, I'm living in denial.
Yeah, you said denial or willful ignorance. Yeah. And so basically, I think passive wellness is an easy way to describe it. But I think what I want to say is that we are made to be active. We are made to move. We flourish under certain conditions, and to not seek those out is a detriment to your health. And so, and unfortunately,
even if you're not doing other stuff to really bring your health down. So yes, I see what you're saying.
And so, but unfortunately, a lot of it is based off of the structure in America, right? So you need to work in a cubicle at a desk in front of a computer under artificial light from 9 to 5. Maybe you get a lunch break, maybe you don't. Commuting to work.
Fuck you up. Yeah.
Do you take homework? I don't know. You have kids who need to be involved in every single sport. I just think that the way that society constructs us to behave isn't always in our best interest.
Escapism with the TV and the phone and all that stuff. So instead of filling in the time with valuable stuff, you're kind of just numbing yourself with screens and things like that.
Yeah.
To then do it all over again the next day.
Right. And so, and things have become so easily accessible for us to where we don't have to move as much, and we can get food, we can get entertainment, we can see loved ones, on a phone, all these things to require us to be more sedentary, more isolated, which is against what our body is made for, what our minds are made for. And so I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of like it's like I hope everything's okay type
Yeah.
of attitude. It's
but
like this.
yeah, but so my biggest thing that I see in practice is when people come in to their annual exam, they haven't been in for years. What do you do for physical activity? Nothing. What's your diet? It's fine. Well, what do you mean it's fine? I eat cereal for breakfast, fast food for lunch, whatever is made for dinner. With complete disregard for nutritional facts. There's no regular physical activity, and then it's like, well, your blood pressure's high. Well, how? I don't do anything wrong. You're not doing anything right, but then how do people know what to do is right?
Well, and that's where, like I was talking about, that intuition, that
Yeah.
something's telling you that you're not that great. But if you're in this category of person that doesn't actively do things, like, for example, like, oh, I don't smoke, maybe you don't drink even, but you kind of eat whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't include any physical activity in your day to day, and you think maybe your weight is under control, quote unquote, like your body composition is not in a terrible place, but you don't move ever, so you're thinking that, oh, I'm okay,
Yeah.
because I'm not fat, like,
Yeah.
or you're using that metric, so I'm okay. I don't really need to do much.
Right. Or they're like, well, I don't need to. I'm not a model. I'm not in the public eye. I don't need to be a certain way. I don't need to look this way. But it's not. I don't want to focus on how people look, and I think that's where people get caught up, especially with society. Do I look okay? Do I not look okay? It's like, no, we want you to move because of the effects it has internally, not the aesthetics as much. And so I think what I want to get out of this is just encouraging people to seek information on how they can be more active, how they can be more proactive with their health, whether it's through movement, diet, sleep, stress management, hydration. Because I feel that people are just okay with not knowing and remaining ignorant and just doing what they were brought up to do, taught by their parents, which may not have been the healthiest thing. So then this cycle perpetuates.
Agreed. I think it's approaching it with that mindset of, like, things can be better, I guess, and like knowing that health is like a living, breathing thing, because it's part of you. It makes perfect sense. But it's this thing that you have to constantly work on, and I think people need to learn to value it as another one, because it's one of those things that you may take for granted until you don't have it,
right?
And then when you're ill, you start wishing that you had, etc.
Yeah.
But it's also realizing that just because nothing is wrong now doesn't mean that you are putting in the foundation for something to be wrong in the future.
Right.
If we're not moving, like, your body's losing mobility and it's losing capability. So in 10 more years, the little aches and pains and the discomfort and the lack of range of motion starts setting in, and now you're like, holy shit, I haven't done anything, so I can't do all this stuff now.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
I think so. It's like creating that, of being aware that just because nothing's wrong now, creating that, did I say awareness, or did I say creating that aware?
That aware.
Woo! So saying that nothing's wrong now doesn't mean that nothing will be wrong in the future.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so to use the cliche, it's the same concept. We need to treat our body like we are treat a car. When you still take your car in to get its oil changed, you fill it with gas, do these things. Nothing's wrong with your car, but you're still taking it in to be, assessed and to be, freshened up, I guess. I don't know. So it's, and a lot of times, a lot of people just leave their body unchecked for years. And so things are going on because they're doing nothing. They're not nourishing it with good foods. They're not, moving it regularly. Like what happens to a car if it sits for years? I don't know. I'm not good into cars, but I'm assuming it won't be good. And so it's just, that point of we need to be doing something so that our body doesn't deteriorate, which I think is happening to a lot of people. but it doesn't look like deterioration. It turns into chronic diseases. And then I think the medical system currently is giving people a pass with expect to have high cholesterol when you get older, expect to have hypertension when you get older. But hey, we got meds for that. So keep living how you're living. We'll just put you on a medication. And so that really bothers me, because why is it that if you have a family member who has a heart attack at 70 or has atherosclerosis at 70 and needs a stent placed, that's normal and that's not a risk factor for you as their relative because it happened when they were 70? But to me, it's like, why can't we change our lifestyle so that when we are 70, our risk of developing plaque in the arteries is much, much less? So I think our medical system sort of sets us up to approach life passively, because there's always going to be something for us to enable that lifestyle.
Do you want me to say why though?
Sure,
Or
say
we're gonna
why.
keep this shit tinfoil hat free? Because you're a customer. They know you're coming to them at some point.
That's what I'm getting at.
You know, so your revenue at some point you're gonna put money in their pocket.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, I'm just gonna be quiet about this because this motherfucker right here is gonna put money on my pocket in the future, and just assume that it's a natural part of life. When there's plenty of people, other parts of the world, that live completely differently, and they never become a customer of Big Pharma.
Yep, that's true.
Know, so that is what we should strive for, is to never become a customer of Big Pharma. Yep. Now, it not to say that you might not need some meds at some point, like whatever, but the goal should be to never become a customer, and then, see where things fall from there. Right. But actively take ownership of the situation. Yes. Here's another one that I see as passive wellness: the people that just wait for the doctor to tell them what to do, and then they just do what the doctor tells them, and then it's like, oh, he told me to put me on these meds, and that's it. I just take my little pills, and I don't do anything else for my thing. That's another layer of passive wellness, because you're letting somebody from the outside dictate how you're gonna run your life, and you just stick to that. It's like, oh, I know maybe I could exercise, but the doctor didn't tell me to. I've heard this one. The doctor didn't tell me to exercise, so I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Like after knee replacements or joint replacements.
Yep. He just told me to do physical therapy, and I did physical therapy for a little bit, and I'm good. Yeah. Like that's it. What? That's very passive attitude to take over your health.
Yeah. And so one of my hopes with this platform is, as I have the perspective of being both a provider and I've been a patient before, is to kind of look at things at both sides, and no fault lies completely on either side. But as patients, to promote you to advocate for yourself, or advocate for a family member of yours or a friend, to challenge the system in a way. Well, what can I do to prevent the need, or what can I do to not go on a medication, or I had a joint replacement, can I, what do you recommend activity wise, like to go forward? Or that may be seeking a non-traditional person, not the surgeon, but maybe a physical therapist, asking them more. So just to promote patients to take more ownership of their health, and not just like what Daniel said, is to rely on, well, do whatever the doctor tells me to. One of the biggest problems I have with that is usually when I see patients, I go over their med list with them, even though I know the nurse already did, but I want to go over it as well. What medications are you on? Well, I don't know. You're the doctor. You have the list. And I get so fucking pissed with that, because whose healthcare is it? It's yours. You need to know what medications you're on. Now, maybe the provider didn't explain to you exactly what the medication was, what it's for, what it does. They're just like, here's this medication for your high blood pressure, didn't tell you the name. But that's where, as a patient, you need to know what you're on, why you're on it. You need to take ownership of your health.
That might be a very valuable, I'm just thinking like a random person, but it'd be like an outsider, but like I might, if I were to land in that position, God forbid, I might want to know what's up and what are the side effects and what am I dealing with in case in the future I require another medical intervention, and that conflicts with what I'm taking, and I don't end up having a fucking seizure or some shit because I didn't pay attention. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, That might be so that is even if we're talking medication here and having that sort of attitude, that's pretty bad. That's concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible.
No, and a lot of people do. They're just, they'll tell me, whatever you think best. And I always, throw it back at them. I'm like, I don't live your life. I don't know your day to day. Is this going to be convenient for you? Is this doable for you? We need to have a conversation. This is a mutual agreement we're going to come to. I'm never just going to say, you're doing this. I can make recommendations, strongly advise, but I can never make somebody do something. So they need to have equal parts involvement into doing this. And that's being active in your health, in your wellness. Now, we'd like to see that more in a preventative aspect. But if you're already being managed for things, being an active participant in that, because it's happening to you, it is yours.
I look at it like my goal is to, because there are people out there that work out and they have a certain, aesthetic, that they look a certain way and you assume that they're healthy, and that is actually incorrect. They're not completely healthy. Maybe their blood sugars aren't in order. Maybe their blood pressure is running high. Maybe their stress management sucks major balls. Maybe they don't sleep that much. Like there's a lot there in their life. Their quality of life is not that great because they've neglected other areas of what we consider health, that just puts them in a compromised state, even though they might be like, oh, I work out and I have a certain body composition. So I'm talking, when I start talking about health, I'm talking about like, hey, there's always room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, you should own that, because now, when we talk about being healthy, we're talking beyond just fitness.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking beyond just being lean or whatever, you're looking a certain way. We're talking about a very, there's things that you see and things that you don't see that are aspects of health. And really, it's the most valuable thing that you will own if you decide to take ownership of it, in my opinion. Because you will not be able to enjoy all the other aspects of life if your health is in the gutter. So what do I mean by that? Can't run, your grandfather can't run with your kids because, you got a fucking oxygen tank. That sucks. Can't, help somebody up the stairs or something, or move around freely. You need somebody to help you move because you did 0 exercise in your life and now all your joints are arthritic. There's back pain, and now you're on a cane at 60 and you can't do stuff. That's terrible. You're overweight. You could have all the money in the world. I posed this question to people at that little speech I gave at a university. And I was like, hey, I told you I'll give you $100 million today. Everybody's like, oh, give it to me. But you have to weigh 400 pounds to receive it. And while you have that money, you got to maintain the weight of 400 pounds. Are you going to want it? Nope. Nobody. Everybody's like, oh, shit, no. Because your life is going to be very difficult, even with all that money. Oh, I can buy whatever I want. I can buy the sports car. You can't get into the sports car. I can buy this big ass house. You can't go to the second story of the house without going through a crucible. So
I could buy a chef to make all my meals, but then you'd probably lose weight. And
exactly. So it's one of those things. I can travel up. You got to travel in a private jet because you're going to take up a lot of seats in a regular plane. So things, things like that, where health is the most important thing that you'll have. That's why they say health is wealth. And we believe that you should be very involved in it and you should be paying a lot of attention to it, and that there's always going to be room for improvement in how much attention you pay to your health. Right. And that's where we're like combating this thing of passive wellness, where you're like, well, I'm not big. Well, there's really nothing wrong right now, so I'm just going to carry on with what I'm doing.
What will be, will be. And it's like, no, you can actually change the narrative here.
Yeah, I've had that conversation too with somebody dear to me, where they're like, well, my uncle died of heart disease at this age, and this person had a cardiac event at this age. So, and he's kind of going through his family tree of people that have had cardiac events and type 2 diabetes and all this shit, and he's assuming that that'll be his fate. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, that ain't it. That ain't it. Like, that's not the attitude that you want. Be like, oh, So I don't really need to worry about it because, hey, the day's gonna come when I'm just gonna croak from one of these conditions because that's what happens in my family. Like, nah,
Yeah.
you have a say in that.
Right.
You have a say in that, and you know what? If that's the case, that you have a defective whatever heart, because these people are out there that have this congenital, defect in their heart or whatever, their lungs or whatever, then at least you put up a fight. I don't
Yeah.
know. At least you put up a fight. That's just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And so, through this platform, we hope to inspire people on ways that they can improve their health. And so, the biggest things, and we talked about this when we first introduced this platform, is I know we speak a lot on diet and exercise, hopefully better than you're getting at, the run of the mill doctor's office. But yes, improving your nutrition. Yes, regular movement, but also optimizing stress management, optimizing sleep. There's other things that are involved in your health that I think we overlook greatly in this country, stress and sleep being two of them.
Relationships, being outside.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, we hope that this provides you with the information and moving forward. And we just always encourage people to advocate for themselves. As a provider, I always appreciate, I may not like it in the moment because I'm busy and, sometimes feeling challenged isn't always the best thing, but I appreciate, and it has made me better when patients pose questions, challenge a little bit because, I learn. Okay. So always do that. The other thing is I've been on the patient side where I've had to advocate for either myself or for loved ones. And it's hard, but if you ever need help with it, that's why we're here. And hopefully we can provide you with information, point you to people who are better than us at providing that information, or just inspire you to look more into ways of optimizing your health and your knowledge on what you need to do to either prevent chronic illnesses or help manage them long term.
Yeah. I want you to think of yourself like a bear, like a big old Yellowstone bear, and your health is your little cub. And there's motherfuckers coming at your cub. Okay? There's motherfuckers like fast food and alcohol and all this shit is coming at your cub. And you're going to fight like hell to protect your little cub. That's how I want you to see yourself.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great day. Make sure to follow us on Achieve the Lifestyle on Instagram.